She stood by the entrance of the mall, adjusting her coat as a chill breeze swept through the parking lot. Lisa always liked the freshness of autumn, but today felt different. This place buzzed with activity, yet something uneasy lingered in the air. As she scanned the area, her eyes fell on a figure leaning against a lamppost. He wore a dark hoodie and ripped jeans, his attention focused on his phone. At first glance, he didn't seem to belong. A flash of annoyance surged through her. Why was he loitering? She remembered the stories she'd heard, the ones about sketchy characters in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. A mother had shared a story just last week about someone who approached her child in the parking lot. As Lisa stood there, her mind raced. Should she say something? She pushed her irritation aside, and instinctively her feet began to move. She called out, her voice cutting through the crowd. The guy looked up, surprise painting his features. He replied, his voice low, almost hesitant. Lisa asked, her gaze steady. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. It was like he hadn't expected someone to confront him. He straightened up, but still didn't move away from the lamppost. "I'm just waiting for my ride," he said, his tone revealing a hint of defensiveness. She pressed, folding her arms. "You've got to know this is a spot where people come and go, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. There was a strange calmness to his words, as if he had dealt with this before, while the busyness of the mall continued around them. Lisa felt the weight of her judgment. She could see other shoppers walking past, barely glancing their way, but for some reason she couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't just a bystander. Maybe he was a potential threat. "Look," she said, trying to sound more convincing, "people can feel uncomfortable being near you. Maybe it's best if you just..." He seemed to raise an eyebrow, like he was weighing her words carefully. It was strange how his non-confrontational tone gave her pause. Here was this young man, maybe in his 20s, who didn't appear threatening at all. But Lisa's guard was up. Still, she had to know more. "Prove it," she shot back, surprised by her own boldness. Just then he reached for his hoodie pocket. The pit of her stomach twisted with concern. Was he going to pull out something? But instead, he produced an ID badge, holding it up for her to see. The badge swung lightly, reflecting the afternoon sun. She demanded, not lowering her stance, "It's my work badge." He stepped closer, and she caught a glimpse of his ID. Her heart raced, conflicting emotions swirling within her. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice softer now, tinged with embarrassment. "No worries," he replied, his tone more relaxed as he glanced at the badge. "Most people don't expect to see security just hanging out." She nodded, realizing how foolish she must seem. "I thought you were just..." He chuckled lightly, the tension between them slowly dissipating. "I guess I can see how it looks. I was actually waiting for the other guys to finish up." Lisa's heart sank a little further. She had jumped to conclusions. She had let fear dictate her actions. "I'm really sorry," she said again, genuinely feeling the weight of her hasty judgment. His expression was warm, devoid of resentment. In that moment, something shifted within her. She felt an urge to learn more. He smiled, relaxing into the conversation. "Sometimes, you wouldn't believe the things people do, but it's actually rewarding." As the words flowed, she found herself captivated. Lisa instantly pictured him as the guy who intervenes when someone seems lost or disoriented. She asked, her curiosity piqued. Michael chuckled again, a genuine sound. "Oh man, the other day, a toddler sprinted out of a store with a pack of gum and his mom was in hot pursuit." She laughed, picturing the scene vividly. It felt good to let her guard down, to realize that the person she'd confronted wasn't a threat. "Yeah, but it's moments like those that make the job fun," he replied, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "And you really get to connect with people, you know." As he spoke, Lisa couldn't help but admire him. The way he described his job with passion, it was hard to imagine him as anything but good-hearted. She asked. He paused, as if reflecting on the question. "I guess it's when someone actually thanks you for helping them." Tension melted between them like snow under the sun. Lisa felt strange warmth swell in her chest. Maybe this was a lesson in humanity, she thought, how easily assumptions become mistaken identities. But just as she was getting lost in the moment, a harsh voice interrupted their exchange. A man ran up, clearly agitated. "Michael, where the hell have you been?" Michael's demeanor shifted immediately. "I'll be there in a sec," he replied, stepping away from Lisa, his focus now entirely on his coworker. The man eyed Lisa suspiciously. Michael glanced back at her, his expression calming. "Just a shopper." The man pressed, not hiding his skepticism. Lisa felt a sudden urge to clarify. "I was just expressing my misunderstanding," she said quickly. Michael's eyes met hers, a silent exchange passing between them. He understood her embarrassment and was grateful she stood up for her feelings, even if they led to a misunderstanding. The man huffed, crossing his arms. "Just don't be late for the next round." Michael nodded, switching to his serious demeanor. As he took a step back, Lisa could sense the transition. The friendly, approachable guy was now replaced with someone who had to respond to the demands of his job. "I hope everything's okay," she said. "Me too," he replied, a faint smile gracing his face. "But I'll be fine," and just like that he was off, disappearing into the crowd with purpose. Lisa stood there for a moment, a mix of emotions swirling in her chest. She felt relief, regret, and a strange admiration for a stranger who became more than just a face in the mall. The tension she'd created just minutes before felt like a distant memory. As she walked back to her car, the world around her seemed to come into sharper focus. She could see the kids playing, couples holding hands, and families laughing. Suddenly, the mall felt warmer, more welcoming. Then her phone buzzed, pulling her back to reality. It was a text from a friend asking to meet up later. She smiled, thinking about what had just happened. She had stepped into the ring of judgment, but emerged with a different perspective. That small interaction had shifted something deep inside her. It reminded her of a truth she had almost forgotten, that often what we see at first glance isn't the whole story. Michael had been a part of that truth. She resolved to be more aware, to ask more questions before making conclusions. After all, sometimes the people we least expect can teach us the most valuable lessons about life. And who knows, maybe next time she'd encounter someone like Michael, she'd approach with open curiosity instead of guarded judgment. Each person carries their own story, waiting for someone to take the time to listen. As she drove away, she recalled his calm presence and the way he spoke with warmth and care. She felt lighter, knowing she could let go of her assumptions and embraces the unexpected realities of human connection. Life was far too rich to remain bound in fear. With that thought warming her heart, she looked ahead, embracing the world that lay before her, one full of new stories and encounters just waiting to unfold. Lisa shouted, her voice slicing through the noise of the bustling mall. She didn't care how it sounded. She had seen him loitering there too long, and instincts told her something was off. The young man leaned against a lamppost, his hoodie pulled low over his eyes. He looked startled, like a deer caught in headlights. His phone in hand, he raised an eyebrow, taken aback by her accusation. He finally managed to say, his voice calm despite the sharpness of her words. Lisa took a step closer, her heart racing. "You heard me. Why are you hanging around like that?" Around them, shoppers bustled about, immersed in their own worlds. Children ran ahead chasing balloons, families moved in packs, but Lisa's focus was fixed on him. A knot tightened in her stomach. Hadn't she heard about the trouble waiting for the unwary? He straightened, pushing back against the wall. He gestured vaguely with a hand, but Lisa wasn't buying it. She pressed, her arms crossed tightly across her chest. "Maybe 10 minutes, he replied, defensive, as if her interruption was the last thing he expected. "It's not a good look," she fired back, her voice more of a command than a question. "You need to find somewhere else." His expression transformed from surprise to annoyed in seconds. "You don't know me," he shot back, the words coming out sharper than intended. "No, I don't, but I know what it looks like when someone hangs around with no purpose," she retorted, her words tumbling out before she could think about them. There was an urgency in her voice, a sense of needing control over her surroundings. People often misunderstand what they see, especially in public. Fear can cloud our judgment, leading us to make decisions based on impressions rather than truths. "I'm just waiting," he insisted, his tone gentler now, but frustration clung to his every word. She demanded, the fire in her belly still simmering. Just then he reached inside his hoodie pocket. Lisa's heart plummeted. Was he about to pull out something dangerous? But as if sensing her panic, he paused. "Wait, just let me show you," he said. He slowly pulled out a badge. Her heart raced. What would it say? Would it confirm her worst fears? He held the ID up for her to see. "I work here," he said, frustration bleeding from his voice. Lisa blinked, momentarily paralyzed. Her mind raced. Security. She had been ready to label him a threat, and here he was in a world of good intentions. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. I'm sorry," she stammered, feeling the weight of her accusation hang heavy in the air. "It's okay," he said, and somehow he didn't seem angry. Instead, he offered her a smile, his expression softening. And here she was, yet another person caught in that web of misguided judgment. Michael continued, now leaning against the lamppost with more ease. Lisa found herself captivated, her heartbeat slowing. "Yeah, I guess I didn't." He shared a small laugh, and she followed, grateful for the sense of camaraderie building between them. "It's fine, you weren't the first to think that way," she asked, her curiosity overtaking her embarrassment, and for the first time, she truly wanted to understand. "The other day I was doing a routine check and some guy thought I was the police. He got all aggressive, yelling at me like I was there to arrest him or something," he recalled, a hint of disbelief coloring his words. "Seriously, nothing much," he shrugged. He calmed down when he saw it was just security. His words struck a chord. She remembered stories from her own life, moments when fear had panicked her into rash decisions. Was this an example? As she listened to him, Lisa began to see the world through a different lens. She inquired, intrigued by what he had to say. "Well, it's a lot of walking around, making sure everything feels safe, but honestly, the real job is handling people," she asked, leaning in, absorbed by the stories unfolding. "Kids shoplifting, disagreements between shoppers, even the occasional medical emergency," he detailed, his passion evident in every word. As he spoke, she watched his face transform, his eyes lighting up. It felt almost like they were in a bubble, separate from the chaos around them. Every tense moment melted away, replaced by connection. She mused. "Exactly," he nodded vigorously. "People just want to feel safe." His sincerity resonated with Lisa. For so long, she had walked through life assuming danger lurked behind every corner. But here was Michael, someone who chose to be on the front line of conflict resolution. She asked without thinking. He smiled, a calmness enveloping him. I don't know if I'd call it saving someone, more like preventing a situation from escalating. Like the other week, a guy was about to get into it with another parent over a dispute in the food court. I stepped in, diffused the whole thing. They exchanged stories, the warmth between them grew. Conversations often go deeper when people share their experiences, unveiling layers of humanity both had unknowingly concealed. She questioned, genuinely curious. Honestly, yes, sure, I deal with a lot of negativity, but I get to connect with people too. At that moment, Lisa admired his perspective. You know, he chuckled, leaning back against the lamppost, arms crossed now in casual confidence. You'd be surprised how often they do. His insight hit her hard. Fear often distorts views, warping the truth into something sinister. She remembered other local news headlines, times she had seen people misjudged for merely existing in public spaces. I never thought about it like that, she told him, her voice growing softer. Michael nodded. You care about your environment, and that's important. She felt vulnerable, exposed in her previous judgment. I guess I have a lot to learn, she admitted. Don't worry about it. Life teaches all of us, he said, his smile genuine and warm. The atmosphere around them shifted. Fear had transformed into understanding, evoking a kind of introspection she hadn't anticipated. But just then, another security team member burst onto the scene, rumbling through the crowd like a blast of wind. Michael, we need you, the man shouted. Lisa watched as Michael's expression changed, the relaxed demeanor giving way to a sense of urgency. Duty calls, he said, glancing back at her. She asked, the concern bubbling up again. Something small, but they need me, he reassured her. But remember, next time you see someone, ask questions first. He shoved the badge back into his pocket and stepped away, disappearing into the crowd with purpose. Lisa stood there for a moment, absorbing the encounter, watching as he donned the cape of his role, protecting the very people she'd judged at first glance. She sensed the shift in her perspective, a softening of her heart. The world continued to swirl around her, alive with laughter and chatter, but she felt different. Michael had opened her eyes to the realities of judgment and the bridge between misunderstanding and connection. Every face she saw now bore stories. Each person might just be waiting for a moment to connect, to share a laugh, a story, or a lesson. The next time she spotted a stranger, her mind would wander towards curiosity instead of suspicion. Life was richer in this way, with the chance to meet people where they were, rather than where fear often told her to stand. As she made her way through the mall, she left behind the remnants of her previous assumptions and embraced the colorful tapestry of humanity around her. And somehow, she knew without a doubt that she'd cross paths with Michael again. Their worlds might collide once more, bound by the threads of understanding that now sealed their unexpected friendship in that bustling space, where the line between fear and connection had been redefined. Lisa shouted, her voice cutting through the laughter and chatter of the mall. It was one of those late Saturday afternoons where the air vibrated with excitement, families dashed toward the food court, and children's voices echoed like music. But all Lisa could focus on was the figure leaning against the wall, his dark hoodie shadowing his face. He looked taken aback at her sudden outburst, his phone held loosely in his hand. The surprise in his eyes mirrored her own inner turmoil. Why was this guy loitering in front of a crowded entrance? Didn't he know how uneasy it made people feel? The young man shifted slightly, his posture rigid. He replied, slow and deliberate, almost as if weighing her words. Yeah, you heard me. You've been standing there for too long, she said, her voice brimming with annoyance. He frowned, unable to hide his confusion. I'm just waiting for my buddy. Right, she scoffed, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Loitering. Lisa watched as the corners of his mouth twitched in a nervous manner. It was as if he was caught off guard by her confrontation. While others walked by without a glance, she felt the weight of every eye on them. She had a responsibility to keep her environment safe. The headlines flashed across her mind. Stories of crime, of danger lurking just under the surface, were ever-present reminders not to let her guard down. I'm not trying to make anyone feel uncomfortable, he said, his voice steady despite her accusations. Maybe you should think about that, she replied, her irritation spilling over. In that moment, she felt invincible, like the kind of person who could confront the shadows lurking in everyday life. Yet there was a flicker of doubt nagging at her. Was she too quick to judge? But before she could process her thoughts, he reached into his pocket. Lisa's heart raced. What was he about to pull out? A weapon? But then, with deliberate slowness, he revealed a badge, holding it up for her to see. Look, he said, a note of desperation in his voice. This is my work ID. The colors on the badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights, and as Lisa leaned in, she could make out the name printed boldly, Michael Carter, security officer, her breath caught in her throat. All at once, those moments stretched out into an eternity. She had charged at a person doing their job, convinced he was a threat when he was there to protect. The rush of embarrassment intertwined with shame swirled inside her. I'm really sorry, Lisa murmured, her voice now barely above a whisper. It's fine, he said, though she could see the hint of frustration in his eyes. As the tension in the air began to ease, a new layer of understanding emerged. She could feel her stance relax. She was no longer a warrior in a battle, but a human being confronted with her own biases. She asked, curious to peel back the layers. His eyes lit up for a moment, and he shifted his weight against the post, finally comfortable in the conversation. Honestly, it's a mix of things. I patrol the area, keep an eye on suspicious activity, and help out wherever I can. Just last week, I had to break up a fight in the food court between two guys arguing over a game, he shared. She inched closer, absorbing every word. They were both a bit heated, but I stepped in before it escalated. Just a few calm words, a reminder they were in a public place. It worked, he explained, smiling ruefully. She chuckled lightly. I can imagine how that went. He replied, the tension from earlier forgot. People come here to relax, to have fun, and when things go awry, I'm there to help. In a crowded space filled with strangers, they were sharing a moment of genuine connection now. The noise faded into the background, replaced by the soft rhythm of their conversation. Lisa began to realize that she might have a lot to learn from this young man, the very person she had been quick to judge. She asked, intrigued, "Oh yeah," he laughed. "Just yesterday, a kid tried to sneak a toy out of a store. He thought nobody was watching." "Wow," Lisa murmured, surprised by his approach. "That's clever." They weren't too happy, he admitted, but I focused on the kid. At that age, it's about teaching them, not just punishing them. A warmth spread through Lisa. His perspective was refreshing and challenged her own views. She had spent far too long placing all the focus on protecting herself and others without realizing that lives intersect through understanding and guidance. She asked, her curiosity deepening. Michael's expression shifted slightly, seriousness settling into his features. "I've always wanted to help people. I saw the impact a good security officer can have on their community. But it's not just about safety, it's about creating a space where everyone can feel comfortable." Lisa nodded, feeling a pull toward his values. In an age where division often sparked fear, he was committed to building community. And then her thoughts took a turn. "But do you ever worry?" His gaze turned contemplative. "Sometimes, but the thing is, I'm more focused on keeping others safe. If I can help diffuse a situation before it escalates, then I'm doing my job." "You can't let fear rule your actions." His words struck a chord. They echoed through her mind, urging her to reevaluate how she approached the world. Hadn't she been operating on the very beliefs he was trying to dismantle? He was a reminder that kindness and understanding could fuel courage. Just then, a shout echoed through the crowd, breaking their moment of connection. "Michael, we need you at the toy store." The urgency in his coworker's voice sliced through the air like a knife. Michael turned, his demeanor transitioning back to that of a security officer, alert and ready. "I've got to go," he said, but not without a hint of regret in his eyes. She asked quickly, concern replacing their earlier camaraderie. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding," he reassured her. "Be careful," she said, feeling a fleeting sense of worry wash over her. She was surprised at how much she dreaded the thought of him in danger. "Always," he replied with a quick smile, then turned to leave. As Lisa watched him meld back into the crowd, her heart felt heavy. She had come into the day filled with judgment and fear, yet here was this incredible connection blossoming into understanding. She took a deep breath and moved away from the entrance, her footsteps purposeful now. The world around her appeared different. Families laughed, children chased each other gleefully, and the scent of freshly made pretzels wafted through the air. Yet she had to remind herself it wasn't just the environment that changed, it was her perception of it. What if everyone was just waiting for a chance to show who they really were, just like Michael had? The idea lingered in her mind as she navigated through the maze of shoppers. Suddenly her phone buzzed, the vibration startling her. It was a message from her friend asking about their plans for dinner. But before she could reply, a woman rushed by, her hands gripping a small child tightly. Lisa caught a glimpse of anxiety in the woman's eyes. She was desperate to reach the exit. Suddenly, Lisa had an idea. What if she followed her instinct? Leaning toward the woman, she called out, "Excuse me." The woman turned, eyes wide and panicked, and for a moment, Lisa saw the familiar fear she had just felt herself. "It's my son," she said, her voice trembling. We lost something important." Instantly, Lisa felt a surge of compassion. She asked, already feeling the urge to help. "Stuffed animal." Together, they began searching the area, her heart racing with urgency. Lisa's mind raced back to Michael, who empowered her to choose persistence and understanding over fear. In that small moment, she recognized the strength of compassion, to connect with someone else's struggle, if only to offer comfort. As they moved from store to store, calling out for the missing toy, Lisa felt an electric sense of community plant itself in her heart. They spoke about their lives, their routines, and struggles beneath the fun facade of a busy mall, and in turn, the world around them faded slightly. And when they finally stumbled upon the stuffed animal snagged beneath a bench, their joy erupted like fireworks. The woman said, tears of relief brimming in her eyes. Lisa waved her off, a smile stretching across her face. As the woman and her son walked away with the stuffed toy safely in hand, Lisa realized that the fear she once harbored faded into the background. Gratitude filled its space. Just then she glanced around, expecting to catch another glimpse of Michael. Instead, she was met with a flood of vibrant faces, each person interacting, sharing moments. For the first time, she understood the beauty of simply being human, of acknowledging the small dramas and joys that unfolded every day. Life could indeed be enriched by moments of connection, those fleeting interactions that, when embraced, could remind us of our shared experience. As she moved through the mall, her heart swelling, she resolved to carry the lesson with her. Ask questions first, listen, and hold space for the stories that waited to unfold. Michael had unknowingly changed her world simply by being himself, a reminder that empathy and respect could light the way in the darkest corners of life. Lisa knew that this wouldn't be her last time confronting her fears or assumptions, but she also understood that each moment brought a new lesson, new people, and possibilities that lay waiting in every unexpected encounter. From now on, she would cherish the stories as they unfolded, forever grateful for a simple act of courage back at the entrance of the mall that had ignited a spark deep within her heart. Lisa shouted, her voice echoing through the busy parking lot of the shopping mall. Cars whizzed past, shoppers hurried to get inside, and the sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air. But her gaze was fixed on him, the young man leaning against a lamppost, scrolling through his phone. He looked startled, like a deer caught in headlights. His dark hoodie pulled tightly around his face created an air of suspicion. It made her uneasy. Why was he hanging around like that? As she approached, her heart raced with a mix of determination and adrenaline. "Hey," the young man looked up, confusion etched in his brow. He replied calmly, but there was a tension in his posture. Lisa took a deep breath, feeling a swell of authority in her words. "You've been standing there for too long." His expression shifted from surprise to a hint of annoyance. Straightened up slightly, challenging her gaze. "I'm just waiting for a friend," he explained, but she wasn't buying it. "In front of a mall, for what? You look like you're loitering." Just the world around them seemed to fade as she stood her ground. Shoppers walked past, casting curious glances, but all that mattered was her confrontation with this unknown figure. She felt something swell inside her, powered by a desire to protect those around her, to create a sense of safety. "Seriously, I'm waiting," he said, his voice steady but laced with a defensive edge. "Look," she shot back, feeling the heat of the moment spike. "If you're not doing anything wrong, just go find a coffee shop or something." For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. It felt almost like the moment before a storm. Lisa could see confusion turning into frustration on his face, and suddenly she worried if she was being too harsh. But she pushed that thought aside. She had to stand firm. Just as it seemed the tension would break, his hand slipped into his hoodie pocket. Lisa's heart raced again, panicking that he might be grabbing something dangerous. She snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. He exclaimed, slowly pulling out a badge. He held it up, and Lisa leaned in, her curiosity igniting. Under the bright lights of the parking lot, the badge gleamed. "Michael Carter, security personnel," it read. Her heart sank. The very confrontation she initiated to protect her environment was about to crumble right in front of her. Michael had been telling the truth. It felt like the breath was knocked out of her as reality set in. She had jumped to conclusions, trapped in her own fears. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled, unsure of how to proceed. "It's all right," he replied, though the hint of irritation never left his voice. "I get it." Those words stung. She felt the weight of her assumptions crush her. Here stood a young man whose job was to create a sense of safety, yet she had treated him like he was a threat. Lisa's embarrassment burned hotter. She found herself asking, her voice softer now. He relaxed a little, pushing his shoulders back against the lamppost. "Well, mainly I patrol the area and make sure everyone is safe." His eyes sparkled as he spoke, and Lisa could see the pride in what he did. Michael chuckled lightly, the tension easing between them. "You wouldn't believe the things I see. Just the other day, a kid tried to steal a toy from a store. It wasn't about getting caught, it was about teaching him that it's wrong." I approached him calmly, talked it out instead of yelling. Lisa was captivated. It was impossible not to be. Here was someone who faced difficult moments every day but found ways to connect with those involved. "That's impressive." "It does," he nodded. "People are more receptive when they feel heard, but it's not always easy." There was a pause, and she could feel a connection spark between them. Suddenly, she realized she had assumed not only about him, but about so many others too. Could it be that everyone carried a story waiting to be told? "I guess I never thought about it that way," she admitted, feeling the raw honesty flow from her heart. "Most people don't, they just see the surface. But every moment is a chance to choose understanding over fear," he continued, his voice measured and sincere. Even as she stood there processing, she thought about how often she allowed fear to cloud her judgment. Stories on the news, whispered rumors, and even her own experiences created a barrier between her and others. She asked, curiosity filling her voice. "Sure, but you learn that most conflicts are just misunderstandings. Once I had to break up a fight between two guys in the parking lot. They were both ready to throw hands, but I jumped in and reminded them of their surroundings. Their families were watching." "That's incredible," Lisa replied, her respect for him growing. "It can be tough, but it's rewarding," he said with a shrug. "And hey, even when things get rough, I still get to see the good in people." His words hung in the air like a promise of hope, and Lisa began to wonder if her perspective on the world could truly change. At that moment, the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't just her standing against Michael, it was two individuals sharing their truths. Fear began to melt away, replaced by a newfound understanding. "Thank you for explaining," she said quietly. "I'm sorry for accusing you." Michael smiled, genuine and warm. "It's okay, people do that all the time." Before Lisa could respond, a commotion erupted nearby. A group of kids raced past them, giggling, but then she noticed a mother chasing after them, her expression panicked. Lisa's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the tension rising again. The woman shouted, ducking around another shopper. He turned immediately, urgency flashing in his eyes. "I need to go check it out," he said, stepping away. She called after him, suddenly feeling protective of the guy she had just met. He gave her a reassuring nod and moved toward the source of the commotion. Watching him, Lisa felt admiration swell inside her. He didn't just work in security, he embodied it. Even with the uncertainties of his role, he stood firm. But as he disappeared into the crowd, she realized something else too. She had just made a friend, someone who had challenged her views in ways she never imagined. How often had she missed the humanity in those around her? How many moments had she let slip by, hidden under layers of fear and misunderstanding? As she walked back to her car, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden light across the parking lot. The laughter of happy shoppers surrounded her, but now, each face she passed became a canvas filled with stories waiting to be discovered. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from her friend, asking if she wanted to get dinner later. She stopped, contemplating for a moment. She repeated her own words back to herself, this time with a different intention. What if she chose to reach out instead? With determination, she typed a response, suggesting a small cafe known for its delicious pastries and friendly atmosphere. As she hit send, she allowed her mind to wander back to Michael. Could their paths cross again? The world was full of intricate connections, and maybe this was only the beginning of something beautiful. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees, the air sweet with the smell of fall. Each step toward her car felt lighter, more purposeful. Perhaps she could allow herself to lean into curiosity, to embrace the unknown. Life had a way of leading her down unexpected paths, and each encounter held potential for transformation. As she slid into her car, she paused for a moment. The sunlight illuminated the dashboard, painting everything in warmth. She could still see Michael's calm demeanor, his thoughtful words, and the gentle reminder that there was power in understanding. Suddenly, she felt a sense of excitement wash over her. The world was alive with color, narratives after narratives just waiting to unfold. Understanding was a bridge away to connect with people on deeper levels and to dare to see beyond the surface. As Lisa drove out of the parking lot, she cast one last glance back towards the mall. Michael was more than just a security officer. He was a reminder that choosing compassion could illuminate even the darkest moments. She knew this wouldn't be the last time she confronted her fears, but now, thanks to an unexpected encounter, she had a new lens through which to view the world. Each encounter could become a small story connecting them all. And so, as she ventured back out into the world, she carried with her an open heart, prepared to embrace the unexpected, ready to witness the vibrant tapestry of humanity, thread by thread. Lisa shouted, her voice slicing through the noise of the bustling mall parking lot. It was a typical Saturday afternoon. Families were busy, kids were laughing, and the scent of popcorn filled the air. Yet all she could see was him standing against a lamppost, absorbed in his phone. He looked up, startled, his dark hoodie casting shadows on his face. Confusion flickered in his eyes. He replied, the calmness in his tone contrasting sharply with her outburst. "Yeah, you heard me. You've been standing there for too long." "It makes people uncomfortable," she said, stepping closer, a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She felt a peculiar sense of power confronting someone who looked suspicious. He shifted his weight, glancing around before meeting her gaze again. "I'm just waiting for my friend. In front of a busy place like this, you need to go somewhere else. Just hanging around gives people the wrong idea." She shot back, her heart racing. Around them, shoppers hurried by, barely paying them any mind. The sounds of chatter and laughter continued, but in this moment it felt like nothing else mattered, just her and him. She felt justified. After all, wasn't it her duty to keep herself and others safe? "Look, I'm not trying to cause any trouble, I swear," he said, his words steady, although she could see the frustration building in his eyes. "Then move along," she insisted, her tone sharper than she intended. Just as she thought he might argue back, his hand slipped into his pocket. Lisa's heart raced. What was he reaching for? Dread filled her, and her instincts screamed at her to step back, but instead he pulled out a badge, holding it up for her to see. "Look," he said, his voice steady, "I'm a security officer." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. The anger that had bubbled inside her began to evaporate, replaced by embarrassment. Her cheeks flushed red. All at once, she realized the magnitude of her mistake. She had jumped to conclusions without knowing anything about him. His calm demeanor, his uniformed badge, it was all there, yet she let her initial feelings cloud her judgment. "I'm really sorry," she stammered, the weight of her earlier words crashing down on her. "It's okay," he replied, the tension in his shoulders easing. It happens all the time. His understanding tone only deepened her embarrassment. I didn't mean to. Yeah, it's a natural reaction. People let fear run their thoughts, he said, his voice gentle. Lisa felt a mix of emotions swirl inside her as they stood there. She had been quick to label him a loiterer, a potential threat. She had fed into that fear, the stories she heard on the news and from neighbor stories that swirled in her mind daily. She asked, eager to understand. Michael relaxed against the lamppost, tilting his head as he spoke. Well, it's a lot of routine checks, making sure people are safe, you know. Her curiosity piqued. He chuckled lightly. Just the other day, I had to calm a situation between two guys who were arguing over a parking space. She asked, captivated. Just reminded them they were in a public place, surrounded by families and kids. I shifted their focus. Lisa couldn't help but admire his approach. That's smart. Exactly, he said, his eyes lighting up with passion. In that moment, as he shared his experiences, something profound began to shift within Lisa. She realized her preconceived notions about Michael were not just about him. They were rooted in her fears and biases that often distorted her view of others. She asked, the sincerity in her voice unmistakable. Michael hesitated for a moment, then nodded. There have been times when things get heated. Once I had to deal with a shoplifter. Turned out he was just a kid trying to impress his friends. I talked to him. I told him he could either walk out a loser or learn from this moment. Lisa marveled at his perspective. Most of the time, he said with a shrug, I believe we have the potential for goodness within us. His words resonated deep within her. For too long, she had let fear make her judgment. Yet here was someone who actively sought to connect with others, to bridge the gaps created by misunderstanding. Sometimes it's hard to remember that, she confessed, feeling vulnerable. It really does, he replied, but remember, fear often leads us to make rash decisions. Just then, Michael's radio crackled to life, pulling him back into focus. Michael, we need you at the food court. He turned to her, urgency appearing in his eyes. I've got to go, he said, already taking a step back toward the action. She asked, concern flooding her voice. It's probably nothing serious, but I can't ignore it, he replied, the responsibility weighing heavily on his shoulders. Be careful, she said, an unanticipated worry swelling in her chest. Always, he called back with a quick wave as he blended into the crowd, disappearing among the throngs of shoppers. Left standing there, Lisa's heart felt heavy. She had just challenged her assumptions and learned a lesson in compassion, and now she realized there was more to the world than what her fears dictated. As she walked back toward her car, the chaos of the mall continued around her, but it felt different now, lighter. The laughter of children, the chatter of families, it all blended into a harmonious soundtrack. Suddenly, the faces she passed weren't just strangers. Each one could hold a story waiting to be discovered. She thought of Michael, his calm presence, his insightful approach, and felt gratitude wash over her. In a world that often felt divided, he was a reminder that connection was possible, even in the most unexpected circumstances. With curiosity bubbling inside her, she decided to take a different approach. Instead of looking away from those she didn't understand, she would embrace those encounters. After all, everyone deserved the chance to share their truth. Suddenly, her phone buzzed a notification from a friend asking if they were still on for dinner. Lisa paused, glancing up from the screen. In a moment of inspiration, she typed a quick response, suggesting an inviting cafe nearby. As her message sent, she pondered the potential paths ahead. The world around her seemed richer, filled with stories and characters weaving through the fabric of life. At that moment, she knew her journey didn't end with Michael. Every encounter, every person she met, could be an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to connect. But for now, she had dinner to look forward to, chance to share her new perspective, to capture the spirit of connection she had discovered. A wave of excitement coursed through her, anticipation fluttering in her chest. As Lisa stepped into her car, she took one last look at the mall. She felt grateful for the lesson she had learned about jumping to conclusions, about the importance of understanding and compassion. Leaving the parking lot behind, she turned on her favorite playlist, letting the music carry her forward. The rhythm flowed through her, echoing the pulse of the world outside, a world filled with vibrant stories and explorations waiting to unfold. Every day held the potential for new connections, and as she drove into the evening, she found comfort in knowing she would approach life with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever came next. In that moment under the setting sun, Lisa knew she was ready to step into the unknown, and that was just the beginning. Lisa shouted, her voice slicing through the chatter and laughter that filled the crowded mall parking lot. The air was thick with the scent of popcorn and perfume, and the sounds of excited children echoed through the corridors. Yet all she could fixate on was him alone, leaning against a lamppost in a dark hoodie, absorbed in his phone. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. He said, the calmness in his voice contrasting sharply with her frustration. Yeah, you heard me. You've been standing there way too long. It gives people the wrong idea, she said, stepping closer, a mix of nervousness and determination surging through her veins. His brows furrowed as he took a moment to process her words. I'm just waiting for a friend. In a parking lot like this, Lisa shot back, her heart racing as she felt the eyes of passers-by on them. Look, I'm not doing anything. he replied, crossing his arms defensively. Lisa felt a swell of authority, empowered by her decision to confront him. But beneath that bravado lay a hint of doubt. Had she overstepped? The moment stretched, the tension palpable. "Because you just look suspicious," she insisted. He said, his simplicity disarming her. "I just think you should go somewhere else, just." He sighed heavily, a mix of annoyance and resignation playing on his features. Just then he reached into his hoodie pocket and Lisa's heart dropped. What was he about to pull out? Her instincts screamed at her, urging her to take a step back. But instead of a weapon, he revealed a badge, holding it up for her to see. Her eyes widened. He said, his voice steady, "I'm a security officer." Under the bright parking lot lights, the badge gleamed, and she leaned closer, her breath catching in her throat. The words stared back at her, stark against the shiny plastic. "I'm so sorry," Lisa stumbled over her words, the weight of her embarrassment crashing down on her. "It's all right," Michael replied, though he couldn't entirely hide the hint of irritation in his voice. People jumped to conclusions all the time. Every word hit hard. She had acted out of fear, smothered by the stories she'd heard and seen in the news, stories of crime, danger, and the lurking shadows of the unknown. "I just didn't know," she admitted, guilt creasing her brow. "I thought you were." He shrugged, a soft chuckle escaping his lips. "Look, it happens. Most people see someone standing around and immediately think there's trouble." His tone resonated with her. Lisa's defenses began to crumble, the realization settling in. She asked, curiosity pulling her in. "Mostly I patrol and keep an eye on everything," he said, leaning against the lamppost, visibly relaxing. "I step in when things get heated." There was something refreshing about his honesty. Lisa found herself wanting to hear more. He smiled, the earlier tension waning. "Just last week I had to break up a fight in the food court. Two guys were shouting over a game. It almost turned into a brawl." Lisa inquired, her interest deepening. "They calmed down. Sometimes a little perspective goes a long way." Lisa couldn't help but admire his approach. "That's impressive." "Exactly," Michael agreed. "Most of the time I try to connect with people instead of throwing my authority around." As she tuned into his words, Lisa felt something shift within her. She began to see how her own biases had formed barriers, walls that kept her from understanding those around her. She asked, captivated by the stories he had to share. Michael paused, his expression thoughtful. That struck a chord with Lisa. Emotions flooded through her, intertwining with memories of her own fears, the way they twisted her view of the world around her. He nodded, his gaze steady. "It's easy to do, especially when the media bombards us with negative stories." "That's really insightful," she said, feeling ashamed of her initial reaction. Just then, a voice crackled through the radio on his belt. "Michael, we need you at the toy store." The urgency in the call snapped him back to reality. "I've got to go," he said, his earlier calm replaced by focus. She exclaimed, the worry surfacing again. "Probably just a misunderstanding, but I have to check it out," he replied, already moving away. She called after him, feeling an unexpected connection form in that brief exchange. He replied, turning back to give her a quick wave before disappearing into the throngs of shoppers. Standing there, Lisa felt a wave of mixed emotions wash over her. Just moments ago, she had confronted someone she deemed suspicious, and now she was left with a feeling of gratitude for his understanding. The mall felt different now, lighter. As she walked toward her car, the chatter and laughter surrounded her, but this time it felt more like a collective celebration of life rather than the backdrop of tension. Every face she passed was no longer just a stranger. Instead, she began to wonder about their stories. What brought them here? What fears were they carrying? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her reverie. It was a text from a friend asking about dinner plans. Lisa paused, glancing up from the screen into the vibrant world around her. She couldn't shake the impact of her encounter with Michael. What if she chose to reach out instead of retreating into assumptions? With newfound intention, she typed a quick response suggesting a local cafe known for its cozy atmosphere and friendly vibe. As she hit send, a thrilling sense of hope washed over her. What would it be like to approach life with curiosity rather than suspicion, to engage with others before jumping to conclusions? Each moment held potential, waiting to be unraveled. Every encounter was an open door with stories waiting to be shared. As she drove away from the mall, she scanned the bustling scene one last time. Sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything. The warmth seeped into her heart, and just like that, she realized that learning doesn't come from a textbook. It comes from real-life interactions, from moments when we break free from our fears and connect with one another. Michael wasn't just a security officer, he was proof that kindness could emerge from confusion, bridging the gap between fear and understanding. As she merged into traffic, a calm determination filled her. Lisa knew this encounter with Michael would echo in her mind, guiding her to embrace every person she met with empathy, to peel back the layers of misunderstanding that often cloud judgment. Life was too precious to waste on assumptions, and with her heart open to connection, she felt ready to embrace the world as it was, vulnerable, complex, and filled with stories waiting to be told. With each passing moment, anticipation fluttered in her chest. She was eager for whatever lay ahead, confident that every interaction could be an opportunity to learn and grow. As she pulled into her driveway, the glow of the sunset mirrored the warmth growing inside her. This was just the beginning of a journey, one where she could redefine what it meant to connect with others, pushing aside preconceived notions to forge new relationships. She could hear the echo of Michael's words in her mind, urging her to seek understanding first. And with that thought, Lisa stepped out of her car, ready to face a world filled with possibility, daring to step beyond fear and into the embrace of connection. Because in those small moments, humanity shone the brightest. Lisa shouted, her voice piercing the chatter of the bustling mall parking lot where families laughed and children darted about. The scent of fresh popcorn wafted through the air, but all she could see was the young man leaning against a lamppost. His dark hoodie cast shadows over his face, and he was tapping on his phone, seemingly oblivious to the world around him. He looked up, taken aback by her sudden outburst, confusion crossing his features. He replied, his calm voice contrasting sharply with her simmering frustration. "Yes, you've been standing there for too long." Lisa pressed, her heart thudding loudly in her chest as she took a step closer. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, a mix of determination and fear driving her to confront him. He blinked, processing her words slowly. "I'm just waiting for my ride," he said defensively, his arms folding tightly across his chest. "Waiting for what? This is a mall, not a bus stop." She shot back, feeling the weight of judgment pressing down. The crowd around them moved on, shoppers barely glancing their way as if this were just another day in an increasingly chaotic world. For Lisa, this moment felt like a vital stand against something that made her uneasy. All she could think about were the news stories of crime and danger lurking just beneath the surface. "I'm really not trying to cause any trouble," he said, his voice steady despite her accusatory tone. "Then prove it," she countered, her heart racing. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them, the air thick with tension. She watched him take a breath, ready to say something else. Just then, he reached into his pocket. Lisa's mind raced with panic. Was he reaching for a weapon? In a split second, she prepared herself for the worst, but instead, he pulled out an ID badge, holding it up for her to see. "Look," he said, "I'm not loitering, I'm on break." Her heart sank as realization dawned on her. All at once, the anger that had fueled her confrontation melted away, replaced by hot embarrassment. I'm so sorry," she stammered, struggling to find her voice. "It's all right," he said, his tone softer now, though there was still a hint of frustration. "It happens more often than you'd think." Her cheeks burned as she realized how quickly she had judged him. Plagued by societal fears and fueled by her instincts, she had leaped to conclusions without considering the full picture. "I didn't know," she admitted, guilt creeping in. "I didn't mean to. I thought you were just." Michael sighed, his expression shifting from irritation to understanding. "People don't realize how easy it is to misjudge someone. I've been on both sides of that equation," he said. Lisa asked, genuinely interested. He leaned against the lamppost, visibly relaxing now that the pressure was off. "Well, I deal with all kinds of situations." Lisa pressed, intrigued by his stories. He chuckled lightly. "The other day I had to break up a fight between two guys over a parking space." "Really?" Lisa asked, amazed at his calm approach. "I just reminded them they were in public, surrounded by families. Sometimes just looking at the bigger picture helps people remember the kind of world they want to live in," he said with a shrug. While Lisa thought it was enlightening, she admired how he took control of situations without resorting to force. "That's actually kind of amazing," she said, a little awed. He smiled, the tension slowly dissipating between them. "Thanks, most of the time my job is about connection." Lisa found herself captivated. Here was someone who actively chose to engage with others, who took the time to understand them instead of judging them. She began to feel a warmth bubbling within her, the kind that blossoms from shared understanding. She asked, genuinely curious. Michael paused, contemplating his response. "Yeah, but mostly it's my instincts that kick in. I learned quickly that most conflicts come from misunderstandings." That struck a chord with Lisa. She thought about her own life, how fear had often colored her perceptions and actions. How many times had she made quick judgments about people without knowing their stories? "I guess I've let fear dictate my reactions before," she confessed, her voice turning softer. "It's easy to do, especially with all the negativity out there," he replied. Just then his radio crackled to life, pulling him back into reality. "Michael, we need you at the food court." The urgency in the call shifted his focus. "I've got to go," he said, the earlier warmth in his voice fading back into responsibility. Lisa asked, a sudden worry filling her chest. "Probably just a misunderstanding," he reassured her, stepping away. She called after him, feeling an unexpected connection forming in a matter of minutes. He replied with a quick wave as he walked away. Standing alone, Lisa's mind raced. She had just confronted a person who merely wanted to do his job, violating her own set of biases. What had she been so afraid of? The mall's lively atmosphere felt different now, lighter somehow. As she walked toward her car, the noises around her melded into a cheerful ambience rather than a chaotic backdrop. Families moved in laughter, and the bright lights of storefronts created a buzz of energy. Each face she passed felt less like strangers and more like stories waiting to be discovered. Her thoughts drifted back to Michael, his calm demeanor, his insightful approach to difficult situations. She began to see the world through a lens of empathy instead of fear. Just as she reached her car, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from a friend asking if they wanted to get together for dinner. Lisa paused, glancing up at the vibrant scene around her. For once, instead of scrolling mindlessly through her phone, she felt the urge to connect. With newfound intention, she texted back, suggesting a cute cafe that was always buzzing with life. As her message sent, she felt a flutter of possibility. What if she approached life with curiosity instead of suspicion? Every brief interaction could become a gateway to understanding someone else's story. The potential for connection was boundless. As she drove away from the mall, Lisa replayed the encounter in her head. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over everything in view. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had learned something invaluable from a stranger, a lesson about assumptions and judgments and the freedom that comes with letting them go. Once home, she found herself smiling at the simple moments, the rustle of leaves in the wind, neighbors chatting nearby, the hum of life continuing around her. Each interaction held a story, each person could be a teacher, sharing insights she hadn't expected. Suddenly her phone dinged again. It was a message from Michael, surprisingly. He had texted her back, a friendly reminder that even in their brief exchange they had connected. He wrote, "But you handled yourself well." A smile spread across her face. She never expected this small confrontation could lead to more than an exchange of words. The connection felt real, immediate, tangible. That night, as she sat around the dinner table with her friends, she shared the story of her encounter with Michael. Each word fell from her lips, her voice rife with excitement. She didn't just tell her friends what happened, she recounted how it changed her perspective. "It's amazing how quickly we can judge someone," she explained over a slice of pizza. "It just takes a moment to pause and realize there's often so much more beneath the surface." Her friends listened, intrigued, their thoughts already igniting a conversation about their own assumptions and experiences. Together, the table erupted into a discussion that wove through personal stories, lessons learned, and the complexities of understanding people in a busy, fast-paced world. As the laughter echoed off the walls and the sunset painted the room, Lisa felt an immense gratitude for her day. The confrontation that turned into learning, the simple moments that began to blossom into deeper connections, and the magic of empathy guiding her forward. In the days and weeks that followed, she found herself approaching life with an open heart, resolved to engage with others before making assumptions. Michael's lesson lingered in her mind: fear doesn't have to dictate. Each stranger she encountered became a possibility, an opportunity to learn, to connect, and to share stories that illuminated the richness of humanity. She decided to embrace those moments, even if they felt small, knowing that together they wove a larger tapestry of experiences. As autumn turned to winter, Lisa continued to reflect on her encounter with Michael. The world grew colder, but her heart felt warm, filled with connections that sparked joy and understanding. And whenever doubts crept in, she remembered the way fear had steered her, how she had turned that moment into a lesson that propelled her forward. Every day became a chance to rewrite the narrative, not just her own, but for others as well. The little moments, the gestures of kindness, became a pathway she chose to navigate, leading toward an existence rich with empathy, understanding, and connection. And in that journey, she found a new version of herself, a person not defined by fear, but by the willingness to engage with the world as it truly is, complex, diverse, and beautifully human. Lisa shouted, her voice cutting through the ambient noise of the bustling mall parking lot. Families hurried by, kids giggling as they wrestled with oversized balloons. But all Lisa could see was him, a young man in a dark hoodie leaning casually against a lamppost, his eyes glued to his phone. He looked up, confusion flickering across his face. He said, his calm tone contrasting sharply with the tension boiling inside her. "Yeah, you heard me. Why are you just standing there?" Lisa pressed, closing the distance between them. Her heart raced as adrenaline surged through her, fueled by a mix of fear and a desperate need to protect those around her. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing around the parking lot. "I'm just waiting for a friend," he replied, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. In a crowded parking lot, the words shot out of her mouth before she could think. Lisa folded her arms, attempting to project confidence. "Look, I'm not doing anything." Drop back, defensiveness creeping into his posture. All around them, activity continued as people shuffled past without a care. A child beamed, balloon in hand, while a couple laughed as they strolled by. Lisa felt the eyes of some of those strangers fall on them and her stomach twisted. This is a public place and people can feel unsafe when someone just stands around like that. "You don't belong here," she said, trying to sound more authoritative. He breathed deeply, frustration evident in his features. "You don't even know me," he responded, his tone steady. "No, but what I see is enough," she insisted, unwilling to back down. Just then he pulled something out of his pocket. Lisa's heart raced. Was it a weapon? She took half a step back, ready for the worst. Rather than a weapon, he withdrew an ID badge and held it out for her to see. "I'm a security officer," he explained, the badge glinting under the lights. "Michael Carter." Her breath hitched as she read the name. The anger that had propelled her moments before deflated like a popped balloon. I'm sorry, she stammered, the flush of embarrassment burning her cheeks. It's fine, he said, though she could sense the irritation still bubbling beneath the surface. The world around them faded for a brief moment as fear morphed into understanding. Suddenly, Lisa realized the weight of her actions. She had seen a young man, and without knowing anything about him, she had painted him as a threat. How often had she judged strangers without understanding their stories, driven by the fear that society had instilled in her? Lisa asked, genuinely curious now, the embarrassment subsiding slightly. Michael relaxed against the post, unfolding his arms. I patrol the area, make sure things are safe, and step in when there's trouble. She pressed, captivated by the shift in the conversation. Just the other day, I had to break up a fight in the food court. Two guys got into it over who got there first. They were ready to throw punches, he explained, a hint of amusement in his voice now. But you know what I did? I reminded them they were in a public space, surrounded by families. She couldn't help but admire him. That's smart, Michael smiled. Most people just want to be heard. For a moment, Lisa felt a bond forming between them. This encounter, which had threatened to spiral into anger, now unveiled a shared understanding. She began to see the humanity in someone she had initially written off. She asked, shifting the conversation back to focus. He considered her question. Yeah, there have been moments, but what scares me more than danger itself are the misunderstandings that could lead to violence. Something about his words resonated with Lisa. The rush of fear that had surged through her earlier blended with a newfound respect. I guess I often let fear dictate my actions, she admitted, her voice dropping to a more vulnerable tone. Fear is a powerful thing, he said, his gaze steady, but it doesn't have to control your perspective. Just then, Michael's radio crackled to life. Michael, we need you at the toy store. The seriousness in the voice jolted him upright, the earlier warmth fading. I have to go, he said, urgency creeping back into his voice. Lisa asked, worried once more. Probably just a misunderstanding, he reassured her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that danger was afoot. It was remarkable how quickly her perspective had shifted from judgment to care. She called out, a sense of protectiveness emerging. He replied, giving her a quick nod before merging into the crowd, disappearing among the throngs of shoppers. Staring into the compressed, lively scene, Lisa felt a pulse of regret. She had approached him ready to accuse, but somewhere along the way, she learned something about herself and him, something transformative. Perhaps she had let too many assumptions cloud her views. The bustling mall felt different now, lighter. As she turned to her car, the laughter of children and the chatter of families faded into a soothing rhythm. Each face she passed, once a stranger, now carried the promise of a story waiting to be uncovered. What challenges did they face? What joys did they hold? Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her from her thoughts. It was a message from her friend asking about dinner plans. Lisa paused, glancing up from the device. Today had been a roller coaster of emotions, and she felt the urge to share. Instead of the usual text response, she decided to call, wanting to let her friend in on the day's events. As the phone rang, she strolled through the parking lot, her eyes scanning the vibrant scene once more. She was ready to embrace each moment. Hey, her friend asked on the other end. Yeah, I actually had an interesting day. You wouldn't believe what just happened at the mall, Lisa replied, her heart racing with excitement. She began to recount her encounter with Michael, feeling every word pulse with the newfound understanding she had gained. Sound of laughter faded around her as she spoke, and Lisa continued, the story flowing like a river. She felt proud, reflecting on how quickly she had changed from a judge to someone who understood the importance of listening. I thought I could do better than just react based on fear, her friend responded, intrigued. As she drove away, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue across the mall's entrance. But just as the warmth seeped into her heart, the radio suddenly crackled. The words that blared through sent a chill down her spine. We have an emergency at the toy store, a weapon involved. Lisa's breath caught, a weapon, her heart raced as she gripped the steering wheel tighter. Oh my God, she whispered, her mind racing. The laughter she had just felt now replaced with overwhelming dread. Without thinking, she turned off the road, the instinct to help kicking in. What if Michael was already there? What if he was in danger? With a pulse of adrenaline, she hurried back toward the mall, her heart pounding in her chest. As she parked and leapt out of her car, the fluorescent lights buzzed ominously overhead, contrasting with the chaos that waited beyond the entrance. People rushed past her, some glancing back, confusion etched on their faces. She could hear the distant sound of shouting and urgency shaking the air. Panic surged through her veins. What if she could help? What if understanding could diffuse the situation? Pushing through the throngs of stressed shoppers, she felt a sudden wave of determination. This was more than just a moment of judgment. It had become a call to action. If fear dictated her reactions again, everything she had learned today would mean nothing. As she neared the toy store, she saw Michael, his figure standing firm amidst the chaos. He shouted commands, trying to maintain control. Her heart swelled with relief. He was unharmed for now. But then she spotted him, a man with a wild look in his eyes, clutching something tightly in his hand, shouting at a group of terrified employees. Lisa's heart raced. The sight sent a wave of dread washing over her. This was not just a misunderstanding, this was serious. She shouted impulsively, instinctively calling out to him despite the circumstances. All her instincts screamed at her to run, to call for help, but instead there she was fighting to forge understanding in the face of chaos. Michael commanded, his eyes locking onto hers, a mixture of panic and caution crossing his features. Before she could respond, the man shifted, raising whatever he was holding angrily. Time seemed to slow. Fear rippled through the air like a shockwave. The words echoed in her mind as the scene grew more intense, the very lesson she had learned hanging in the balance. Lisa was about to confront the chaos head-on, a choice between fear and compassion, between stepping back and standing firm in the midst of looming danger. The clock was ticking, and the weight of the moment felt heavier than ever. What would she choose? What would happen next? In this moment, everything hinged on the fragile thread connecting fear and understanding, and Lisa had to decide what kind of person she would be. Would she let fear win, or would she rise to the challenge? The air crackled with tension, and as she took a deep breath, she knew one thing: she couldn't just stand by and watch. Something had to change, and it started with her. The world was waiting for her response.